are on.
Hello and welcome to Jazz Beans Entertainment Channel. My name is Myron Fisher, aka Benjamin Blakey, and you just tuned in to an episode of Table Read. Before we get started, I want to give some shout outs to some Jazz Bean mentions. First, Grand City TV on Roku channel. Also, Jazz Burke with his show Jazz Wins, also on Grand City TV on Roku. Pam Jam's Corner Spot on Facebook, and Emmy Award-winning Stephon Braxton, who shows Comics on Life on Facebook and also on Roku. Our panelist today is none other than Susan Britt from Pittsburgh, and also the great trombonist Carl King, also from Pittsburgh. Now, our special guest today, this guy here is phenomenal. Man, oh man, oh man. Actor, playwright, historian. The man does it all. Good friend, Mr. Wali Jamal Abdullah. Welcome, people. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Wally, tell me, give me a little bit of your background. Tell me what you got going on right
now. I'm starting my 23rd year in theater. I've been a comedian. I'm a playwright. Currently, I'm writing a lot of stuff for a few factions. I'm writing a play called The Keystone Kid, which is a play that takes place during the Great Depression, and it's based on a true story about a Polish immigrant from East Vandergrift during the Depression who took it upon himself to make a name for himself by traveling to each state in America, all 48 states at that time, by jumping boxcars, freight trains. And he chronicled all of his experiences while traveling to all those states, and the people that he met, and even being arrested, being left off of the train in the desert. And it's just full of all kinds of incredible adventures that this guy went on. And it's based on a true story from a book called Boarding the Westbound. And it was written by the guy, the hobo, by his son. You see, the guy, he refused to work at the mill. If you were a Polish immigrant in East Vandergrift during that time, if you wanted a job, it was that 10 mil or nothing. And this guy didn't like people just dictating his destiny. So he took it upon himself to do something big, make a name for himself by traveling to all 48 states on just 48 cents. Now, he was very, very adamantly opposed to working in that mill because of the working conditions of the time. There was no unions, and it was a 12-hour workday. People got hurt and killed on the job all the time. And he referred to the mill as a death trap. So he avoided it like the plague. Now, after he did this thing, traveling to all 48 states, time went on. He married this girl that he flirted with before he left. And they were married for a few years, and then she got pregnant, and they were about to have a kid. And so he was faced with what was he going to do to really have a stable household for his wife and child. So they talked him into, and labor conditions had improved at that mill. And so he was talked into going ahead and working at that mill. And a year after he started working at the mill, he walked into this one area where 6 tons of steel was dropped on him and killing him, decimating him. Just not much left. Closed casket. and it kind of made his prophecy come true. Now, that is a heck of a story, and that's the truth of it. But as any great writer will tell you, you don't let the facts get in the way of telling a good story. And so I added some characters, particularly some Black characters, who put the Depression into perspective for my white audiences. Whereas this guy, he tells the hobo how long he had been hopping freight trains. He said he was hopping freight trains. It's 1932. And he said he was hopping freight trains for like the last 8-9 years. So Joe, that's the hobo from East Vandergrift, he told him, he's like, well, this Depression, it's only been going on a couple of years. How come you've been doing this for so long? He said the Depression started for you a couple of years ago. But the Depression to my people, it's like Tuesday. See, it's the Depression to you, to me, it's Tuesday. And so they wound up bonding and forming an indelible friendship that resulted in them parting ways when they were running to catch a freight train, and the cops were on them, and the guy's running alongside the car. Joe's already on the freight car, and you heard gunshots, and the guy left. The guy fell. So Joe went on without him. Now, at his funeral, later on, years later, at his funeral, they were about to, wrap things up at his wake. And when this Black guy comes in, and they're like, who are you? And he identifies himself as the guy's friend. Everybody, the audience, thinks he's dead because of the gunshots and him falling. But he just tripped, and they locked him up, put him on a work farm for years. And then once he heard about Joe dying, it was right after he got out. So he wound up going to East Vandergrift. Now, in his bag that was on the train when he got arrested, when he fell, Joe went through his bag and found his harmonica, because he was a virtuoso at harmonica, and it got him meals, it got him shelter. When he could play something good, it opened doors for him. So Joe, he had kept this harmonica thinking that the guy had died. And he went back, once he got back, he told all his friends about this Black guy that he, was really good friends with. And they had his harmonica in his coffin. So when he identified himself as Jacob, the Skinner, they reached in the coffin and said, this belongs to you. And so the play ends with him playing "Oh Danny Boy" on the harmonica. And it's a heck of a story. And because it's already, a put together story, I'm more easily able to add in these little nuances and different little things that happen. Like when he gets stranded in the desert, he had to walk 22 miles in the true story. But in my story, he has to walk 50 miles. And he runs into a Native American shaman who sends him on a vision quest. Gives him some peyote. I don't know if y'all know what peyote is, but it's kind of like acid. It's like mushrooms, magic mushrooms. And he's tripping out, and he sees all these crazy things in the desert. A clown with a little umbrella comes walking up to him while he's tripping. And the clown walks up to him, asks him a couple of questions, punches him in the stomach, and tells him, go home. And then he sees his girlfriend out here in the desert. He's like, how'd you get out here? What is this? And she comes up to him, she kisses him on the cheek, punches him in the stomach, and tells him to go home. And there's a couple other people that he meets during this vision quest that punch him in the stomach and tell him to go home. and he winds up really losing it, and he passes out. And when he wakes up, he hears "Ooh, ooh," in the distance. The train was coming. The next train was coming, salvation. And he was able to make the rest of the states and go back to a hero's welcome. It was incredible what he did. And so that's one thing that I'm working on. This play should be it should be done in a reading probably around June, but that's one thing that I'm working on. This other thing that I'm working on is I wrote this piece. A gentleman by the name of Jeff Stimmel. He's a filmmaker originally from Mount Lebanon here in Pittsburgh, but he's out there in LA and doing it big, you know, and he kind of liked my work. So he asked me to write my experiences during 1979 during the Pirates We Are Family Championship season.
Oh.
And so just writing about I was 17 years old in 1979, and like he just gave me targeted questions that I could expound upon. Like he asked me like to write about how many pirate games I had attended, you know, growing up. And I gotta tell you, between me and y'all, I might have been to like 3 in my life.
Oh, wait a minute, Wally, you didn't get the little tickets off the Town Talk bread?
Well, I used to get tickets. Well, if I could, I'd like to read you this passage. Mm-hmm. And it's about a pirate game that I didn't go to. And it's about 10 minutes. If we have time, I'd like to read it. And do we have time?
Yeah, we have time.
Oh, great. Okay.
I want to ask you about Ireland.
You mean Scotland?
Scotland, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be going to Scotland this year in August for the Fringe Festival, and I'll be performing August Wilson's How I Learned What I Learned, one-man show. It'll be the European premiere. Nobody's ever done the show over in Europe, in the UK, anywhere over there, or outside of the United States. I'll be the first. In addition to that, I'm the first and only actor who had performed that one-man show, in addition to August Wilson's 10-play century cycle. So that's a first, and I'm very proud to be that it's Pittsburgh. A brother from Pittsburgh, an actor from Pittsburgh, is the one who did it first. Not no Broadway, you know, muckety muck or LA, this and that. Somebody from Pittsburgh, to prove that nobody loves August Wilson's work more than the people of Pittsburgh.
And you knew August Wilson. I know we did a show together, one of August's plays, Ma Rainey Black Bottom, where he actually attended.
Yes, he was there, and my goodness, we were so blessed to have him in attendance that well, I'll tell you my little story about that. I played Toledo. You played Slow Drag. And that was, I mean, it was a great performance. And August was in town for Rob Penny's funeral, you remember. And that was 2003 when, you know, Papa Penny died. And he came into town. And I tell you what, I want to show you something real quick. Let me get this real quick. This picture. It's a picture of from that day in March of 2003. And a friend of mine took this picture, and this is a picture of August Wilson with the late, great Nate Smith. If anybody remembers Nate Smith,
yes,
he was one heck of an organizer. He got a lot of work for a lot of Black men, and he is clearly hurt by the passing of Professor Penny.
Yes.
And he and August, and this is just hours before August came to see us perform. So it's you know, the connection is just astounding, and you know, can make your heart skip a beat a little bit. But to that story, I played Toledo, and in if you saw the movie Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, you saw Glenn Turman playing Toledo. He's the piano player, and Chadwick Boseman kills him at the end, and that's how it is in the script. And I got killed at the end of our play, and it was very dramatically staged, where when I got killed, I'm laying there on the floor, like in the script, I was supposed to die with my eyes open. And it really freaked out the guy who killed me. You know, he's telling close your eyes, this and that. And I'm just laying there, you know. But I knew exactly where August was seated. And so when I'm laying there in this little blood red pin spotlight with my eyes open, I was looking right at August. And I'm telling you, I freaked him out. He was sitting there like this. Freaked him out. I'm like, he wrote this and he was so moved by that image. And let me tell you something. I'm laying there with my eyes open, and anybody that's been on a theater stage, especially like at the Penn Theater, is dust, constantly flying around. And it was just landing in my eyes, but I did not blink, not once. But my eyes were watering, just really, really watering. And there were tears going from this eye into this eye onto the floor. And I'm just like so glassy-eyed and just staring at August, that when the lights went down and they came back up and we did our curtain call, August jumped out of his seat, came down to the stage and shook my hand. He said, "You were good." He said, "You were good." I'm like, August said I was good. No notes, no more notes. I don't want no notes. You heard the man.
A powerful scene.
Yes.
That was in
with Jay Jones playing Levy. And I'm gonna tell you something. No disrespect to the memory of Chadwick Boseman. He was awesome in the movie, but I'm still very partial to Jay Jones's performance. And if you saw him, if you would have saw him, you would have never forgot.
Charles Dutton, right after we finished, we went to New York to see Charles Dutton, and to me, Jay Jones really took that even over Charles S. Dutton.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. We went to New York because August got us tickets. He was so impressed with our performance, and he said we were better than the Broadway performance. They were performing Ma Rainey's Black Bottom on Broadway, starring Whoopi Goldberg as Ma. Charles Dutton from the TV show Rock, he was in there. The guy who played Cutler was Carl Gordon, who played Rock's dad on the TV show. Rocky Carroll, I believe, was in it. And remember Eartha Kitt had her dog? Yeah. Eartha Kitt was there, and she had that little dog, and the dog wouldn't shut up. Then there was this woman, there's this woman who took pictures, and Whoopi stopped the show and said, "No, we don't do that. We don't do that." I mean, she stopped the show. And see, it was like, it was a revisiting of the play because Charles Dutton originated the character Levy back in the 80s. And so they did a revival of it, and, it just kind of suffered because Levy was supposed to be a young, vibrant upstart. And Charles Dutton, he was wearing this wig of a conch, and you could see it was starting to draw up on his head, and it made his head look kind of like a gorilla, like kind of cone shape. It was a mess. And so saying all that, our production was just off the chain, and like that, they were just phoning it in, really. None of them had anything to prove. We did, and we did prove to August, the writer himself, that we did the daggone thing. We definitely did.
All right.
But back to this thing that I'm writing about my experiences with pirate games and whatnot. I'd like to read you this thing about a pirate game that I didn't go to. And if I may, I'll proceed.
Please, sir.
Now, I may have gone to dozens of pirate games in my life. In my much younger days, I went a few times with my friend and his dad at the brand new Three Rivers Stadium over on the city's north side. Now, once I started getting game tickets from my Post-Gazette paper route, I'd grab a friend or two and we'd ride the bus to the game. Now, normally there wouldn't be any trouble. But by 1975, I noticed disco take America by storm. Now, this incredible dance craze opened up nightclubs across the country. It caused a music and fashion sensation in this country that transcended race and even age. Now, I remember the big 2001 discotheque on the north side, named for the futuristic movie, but sometimes you took your chances going there. Now, it might depend on what night you go or other circumstances that could bring about a racial or territorial confrontation. You had to be careful about walking through many neighborhoods in Pittsburgh, but particularly those of the city's north side. Now, the north side gained quite a reputation for violence toward Blacks. Now, I'm not talking about cops. I'm talking about Joe Average white guy who at any given time could be spurred into violent action to whatever Black person comes sauntering through their neighborhood. That's who we had to worry about back then, Joe Average white guy. Now, yes, in 1975, disco had crossed the racial divide in many ways, but in early January 1977, a miniseries premiered on ABC. It was called Roots, based on the book by Alex Haley. It was about the life of an African man named Kunta Kinte following his capture in Africa and enslavement in America. The story covers his children, their exploits, and so on. Now, the vicious and brutal treatment of an unoffending people struck raw nerves all across the country. Pittsburgh was no exception. Upon our return to Carrick High School after Christmas holiday, we were met with racial epithets, racial graffiti, and racial brawls, of which I even found myself, caught up in. Now, whatever racial bridges were built by disco, they had been burned, and they blown up by the miniseries called Roots. So later that summer, when I approached two of my friends with pirate tickets, I was met with, no, thank you. You can go to deal with them north side white boys if you want to, but not us. So they told me of their plans to ride their 10 speeds over to Beltsuver, to McKinley Park, where there was a graduation picnic. And they were going over there to check out some girls. Now, they said I might as well come with them. I thought about it. There were always pretty girls in Beltsuver. So I tore up the tickets, got my 10 speed and rode over there with my friends. Now, we had a great time. They had free food, games, and girls. I got the phone number of this really cute girl. Man, we had a ball. Now, we were heading back home, riding our bikes through the mostly white neighborhood of Mount Oliver, when a big, raggedy brown Cadillac came barreling around the corner. Now, the radio was blasting and they almost hit us. The men in the car started yelling at us and they pulled the car around to hit us. We all jumped on the curb and we were pedaling for our lives when I hit something on the sidewalk and I was thrust into a rose bush. They stopped, got out of the car, dragged me out of that rose bush into the street. The doors of the car were left open when the men got out and they left the radio blaring. One of the men held a shotgun as the others beat the crap out of me. Now, mind you, this is June, mid-afternoon, about 3:30, 4 o'clock. It's hot. And people are in their yards and on their porches watching. And what's blasting on the radio? The voice of the gunner, Bob Prince, calling the Pirates game that I tore up the tickets to. Then the one guy, he kept poking me in the head with the shotgun, accusing me of stealing the bike I had. But then in complete contradiction of himself, he took the bike, slammed it around, even hit it with the car before throwing it at me. And then they all left. leaving me in the middle of this narrow cobblestone street with blood dripping from my nose and my mouth. I angrily cried as the voice of the gunner trailed off as they rounded the corner. I cried like a baby because no one would help or even say anything. Off in the distance, I saw my friends coming back. They tried to help me, but I was inconsolable. I slumped my bike over my shoulder and started for home, but then I stopped and I walked to the Mount Oliver police station, just 2 blocks away from where I was attacked. I saw a couple of cops in there sitting around, and I started telling them what happened. The one cop cut me off and said, "Get the fuck out of here." While I was on one of the longest walks home ever, it was indelibly etched onto my 15-year-old mind that there was absolutely nowhere in America where a Black person could be safe from a white person's implicit bias or random violent attacks, with little or no protection coming from the police. So on that long walk home, I had to ask myself, would I have been safer going to that pirate game? And that's it.
All right, thank you, my brother. Thank you. Yeah, I remember that time myself. We Are Family. At that time, Pittsburgh had a slogan that we're a whole world of people. And at times, and to be honest with you myself, I really didn't feel the racism of Pittsburgh until I actually came back. I left in '79, and I didn't feel the racism of Pittsburgh until I came back in 1999. Because when I grew up in East Liberty, Homewood, and the Hill. East Liberty, I had Italian friends, some friends from Mexico, and all kinds of stuff. But I really didn't feel that racial divide back then. I would go, when I mentioned the Town Talk bread, they used to have these tickets on the Town Talk bread. And when we go to the stadium, Myron Cope and some of the other announcers, they would give us tickets to the games.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't feel that then. I felt it when I came back.
Wow. Well, what happened?
Actually, I was just at a gas station, and these white guys come out and all nigger, nigger, nigger. But they didn't stop their car enough for me to respond, because they really didn't want to for me to respond to that. So they when they do that kind of thing, it's always in a swift passing. Well, let's face it, I'm 6'1", and at the time about 300 pounds. So
Yeah.
I wasn't the one to fool with.
Yeah, they come find my little 160-pound butt.
Yeah, but yeah, man, that's I remember those games at Belt Soup. Yes, you're right. Always beautiful women from Belt Soup.
Yeah, man. I mean, there are beautiful women in every neighborhood, but just like we would but we would rate them, we would cut class and go to different high schools. We would leave our school and go to Gladstone. Remember Gladstone?
Yeah, I remember Gladstone.
Yeah. We would go over to Hazelwood to Gladstone, or we would come to Fifth Avenue High School, or go up to Brashear once it opened, and it's strictly about the girls. And I mean, there were territorial things, but not like today.
Right.
I mean, you wouldn't get shot. You might get chased out of a neighborhood, but you didn't, it wasn't a death sentence, like going to a party in some other area. It's just so terrible now.
I don't see Carl. Susan, and what is your take on Brother Jamal's story?
I thought it was fabulous. Absolutely. I mean, I just think about it as these are things that honestly I really wasn't aware of, and I listened to you guys talk about racism. I think as a female, it's not something that a female really deals with. It's more a male thing. I have noticed that. Like, I'm not saying, I got the proverbial language that, from the cops as a kid, calling us spookies and stuff like that. But when it comes time to, when I look at these things, just seeing um, listening to you guys talk, I think, first of all, it was an eye-opening experience for me. But listening to your story, it opened a lot of things that I really didn't know about, and things, I just assumed everybody was segregated. You know what I mean? There was never meetings of the races, and to hear, that there was, and to look at your perspective on it and bringing in the Black race. I like that, because that's where you're concentrating on. I like that a lot. You know what I mean? Kind of story told by a Black man for a Black man.
Thank you.
You know
And
what I mean?
I gotta say, like, one of the reasons that it happened like that is because Carrick High School, in the area of Carrick at that time, was like 95% white. And the school itself was like 70% white. There was a small minority of Black people that went to the school, so it kind of emboldened them a little bit. And when you said that, like, you never experienced it, it just made me think of that time, that winter, when we came back after Christmas vacation. Our homecoming queen, the homecoming queen, was a Black girl from St. Clair Village, and she was gorgeous. She was like Diane Carroll to us.
Okay.
Doreen Elam. And the biggest race riot started as a result of a white guy spitting in her face.
Oh man.
When the word got around that somebody did that to Doreen, people came up that didn't go to the school. came to Carrick High School, and it was terrible. It was terrible, but luckily nobody got killed.
Right.
But it was terrible. It was a terrible time, and I'm scarred for life from that.
Yeah. I guess I got to ask you a question though.
Sure.
Was your nickname Girl Chaser? Isn't that about the time that song was out? I'm a girl chaser.
I'll tell you what, I had a nickname. I wish I had a picture handy of what I looked like during that time. When I was, but by the time I was 14, I had a full beard.
Okay.
And I learned how to plait my hair, so I let my hair grow, and I had a Frederick Douglass, it was a floppy fro. And so I was so hairy and muscular that I earned the nickname Caveman. They called me, there's people that still call me Caveman to this day.
Awesome.
My eyebrows connected. I was a unibrow. I was so hairy. It was just insane.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Man did chase girls.
Okay. Yes, they do.
Didn't hit them over the head with no club or nothing. I was a little bit more.
You were saying it though. That's the only thing that kept playing in my head. I'm a girl chaser. I'm like, okay, I wonder if they called them that.
I'm a girl watcher. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm a girl watcher, but you got to change the name for the time.
Right. Yeah.
Carl, what was your take on this story?
Oh, I really like this story. I think he has a great play and everything. It was really very informative to me. I really liked it. I see he knows a lot of history. He's been through a lot of history in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, different neighborhoods, things like that. It's very informative. I really liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah, he is a historian. He does one-man show of Samuel Smalls.
Martin Delaney, Robert Smalls. That's this guy.
Why I keep calling him Samuel?
He had I don't know why either, but this is Robert Smalls right here. And to tell you about him, he was a slave born in 1839, and by the time he was 15, he had learned how to pilot steamships and sailing ships. And in South Carolina, that was an invaluable commodity for anyone who knew the intricacies of the sea islands, because if you didn't, you could mess around and wreck your boat, because it was kind of like the fjords of Norway. It was very, very, very treacherous. And so being such a great pilot, they wouldn't call him a pilot because he was a slave. They put him on the Confederate, by the time the Civil War came around, they had him piloting the Confederates' boats. And in 1862, while he was the pilot of this General Roswell Ripley's flagship, what they would do, the white crew would, like on Friday, they would go into town and get drunk and leave the slaves on the boat, and completely confident that the slaves wouldn't do anything. Well, Martin Delaney, Robert Smalls, this gentleman here, planned with his black crew members to steal that boat after being loaded up and fully supplied with guns, ammo, food, whiskey, sugar, all kinds of stuff. And they took the boat, and Robert Smalls dressed up in the Confederate captain's uniform. They would cut you up. If they caught you in that uniform, they cut you up and feed you to hogs. And he really took a big chance doing that. But it was very late at night. It was the wee hours of the morning where he had to get the boat past all these different forts: Fort Sumter, Fort Moultrie, Fort Wagner, where the Glory Battle took place, Fort Jackson, all of those boats. And he knew the signal to blow. And they couldn't really make out exactly who. They could make out the uniform, but they couldn't see that it was a brother that was in that uniform. And so getting past all of those forts, he made it out 7 miles off the coast where the Union had a blockade, stopping them from exporting cotton or whatever else. And so the Union, they boarded the ship. And just imagine the surprise on the boarding captain's face when he saw this guy wearing a Confederate captain's uniform. And so he became a hero, and he got a bounty that would equal $30,000 in today's money. Wow. Okay. They then commissioned him as a second lieutenant in the Army, and then they put him back in the Navy piloting that same ship called the Planter, and he wound up becoming the captain of that boat. And then after the war, he bought his master's house. And he even let his master's wife live out her remaining years in that house. She had dementia. And so she didn't realize, a lot of white people went crazy. Absolutely crazy when slavery was over. Because it was all they knew. They didn't know, right. They couldn't tie their own shoes, And so this woman, just like a lot of them, lost her mind, and she was still ordering them around while she in their house. And she's buried in the backyard, and that house is still there on Prince Street in Beaufort, South Carolina. Now, this guy, after the war, after he bought that house, he served on the South Carolina State Legislature. He went on to become the commander-in-chief of the South Carolina State Militia, which is now the National Guard. He then ran for Congress and won, and even after Reconstruction was over and they were rescinding all these people's appointments to these positions, he kept his. He was the collector of customs at the seaport of Charleston. Imagine anybody who was the collector of customs. Yeah. Oh my goodness, yes. He was he died in 1915, and his son, William Robert Smalls, was a graduate of Pitt.
All right.
There was and during the war here in Pittsburgh, in where what is now Arlington Heights.
Hmm.
I don't know if any of y'all know about the swimming pool up there. They called it the Fort.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, that
Yeah.
was Fort Smalls, built
Oh,
by
wow.
black people here in Pittsburgh to keep watch over the Monongahela River. Just so much history out here. And this dude, I mean, and I went on to write this play. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. This play right here is called Robert Small's Legend of the Black Mariner. Let me see if I can get it up there. And it was done at Pittsburgh Playwrights Theater. Yeah, there we go. Robert Small's Legend of the Black Mariner, and I did that and we performed that. Well, they performed it in 2006, and there's a picture of Kim L from that play. She played Robert Small's mother,
Okay.
and she was fantastic.
Mhm.
And there's just so much rich history that we have been denied, and white people have been denied it too. You see, it's my understanding that whatever ideas we have of each other historically is based on what we have learned about each other historically and what we haven't learned. If you haven't learned about an incredible guy like this guy, you would think no black people would have the guts that he had. You know, so that's a big part of the discrepancy between race, because we would know, if we really looked at our history, if we really learned our history, we would see that there are far more similarities between white and black than there are differences. But a lot of them want those differences to exist so they can stay here and keep us down here.
Mhm.
Understand? So that's my mission in life, to edify and to educate as many people as I can about our impact on American history.
All right.
You
Susan,
have
you have any
definitely
questions?
educated me.
Hmm?
That
Yeah,
is for
me
sure.
too.
Do
Thank
you have
you.
any questions for our host, our guest there, Susan?
Pardon me?
Susan, do you have
Yes.
any questions for our host, our guest?
No, I mean, you're just a wealth of information. I could sit here and listen to you all day. So, I mean, I just think you're amazing.
Yeah, me too.
I've learned so much, and
I
I
learned
just
so much.
thank you.
Well,
Thank
I'll
you.
tell you, I have 2 YouTube channels. 2 YouTube channels, and the one is called History's Flip Side, where I talk a lot about this guy here, Martin Delaney.
Okay.
He was Pittsburgh's first known black doctor. And I got something to show y'all. Let me grab it real quick. Yeah, here we go. It's you see, back in 1852, Martin Delaney wrote a book called The Condition, Elevation, Immigration, and Destiny of the Colored People of the United States, Politically Considered. And
Wow.
I have reissued this book, and that's him on the cover. See, now this guy in the Civil War, he was the highest ranking black man to serve in the Union Army during this entire Civil War. He was a major
Wow.
from Pittsburgh. And so I have republished this book, and I renamed it The Delaney Papers, because the condition,
Nice.
elevation, immigration, and destiny of the colored people of the United States is too long.
I would like to thank
So-
our panel, Carl and Susan. We really appreciate you coming in, and really would love to really thank our special guest, Wali Jamal Abdullah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
you
you.
very much.
It has been a pleasure having you on the show. I really enjoyed you, and I hope to see you again. I'd like for everyone to just tune in. This is going to be airing on YouTube probably next week. And I want you to stay tuned because we're going to have some more special guests. I have Kim L. Is going to be coming in, and I'd like to pull in when he got. I understand he's in California right now, but I'd like to pull in brother, the founding director of the Pittsburgh Playwrights Theater Company, Mr. Mark Southers, as soon as I can get a chance to talk to him.
I know.
And we're going to be talking with a lot of people from Pittsburgh and hopefully from around the world to pull in folks and say, hey, this is what we do. We got some interesting people in life and we'd like to really share and highlight them. Again,
Awesome.
Thank you so much. And tune in again for our next episode of The Table Read. Thank you. You all have a great evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Take care. Stay warm.
Yeah,
Good
you
luck
too,
in
man.